All right, here we go. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the King of Average podcast. It's your boy BB, along with
Melik.
And today, kind of a fun one, we have our very first guest.
What?
Yeah,
you did it, man.
It's spontaneous, but super exciting, and we're super ready for it. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's going on? My name is Adam Totounji, and that's what people call me usually. So I guess we'll just do it that way. I don't really know what else the resume would look like, but I'm just a dude who just likes to make content. And
honestly,
do some
bro,
cool things.
You just showed us that you one time did an interview with Pat Bev, and honestly, that's more than enough for a resume. Like that's,
okay,
I'm so impressed by that.
Let's clarify real fast because Pat Bev could be Pat Beverly from freaking. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, sorry.
All right, we gotta clarify.
Who's Pat Bev, bro?
That would be impressive too.
That would suck. What the heck happened there,
this
man?
is picking up crazy noise from my end. I really should cover it with this thing, huh?
Bro, look at the sound.
So guys, as we're filming this, we're looking at the spikes with the audio, and we're just laughing at ourselves because obviously production is A1 right here. But
that's what it is.
We're trying to get it done, bro.
Oh man!
Oh my god!
I'm just gonna
That's literally it.
We'll see if that works a little bit better. You know what? The problem might be that I might sound muffled.
Yeah, the audio is completely gone.
Yeah, should we find out? Let's find out.
Just pause and read.
Am I wrong?
You're still recording, huh?
Okay, perfect. Oh, man. Anyways, so David, what's his name? David
Goggins. I'm just kidding.
That'd be good, too.
Patrick Bet David. Yeah.
Patrick Bet?
Yeah, Patrick Bet David.
Patrick Bet David.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, the fact that you showed me that's enough of a resume.
Oh, thank you.
Like it's like I'm not even trying to gas you up. Like I'm mad impressed. That's a person I would definitely love to sit down and have a conversation with.
He was very intimidating.
No way,
dude. So when I had him scheduled, it took me 8 months to book.
Wow.
Right, and my luck that week when we had to go fly to Texas to go to their headquarters, I got sick. So if you listen to the video, I had like a flu. I was congested, but I'm like, I'm not rescheduling this, man. Like, I gotta make it happen. So I show up and I'm like dizzy, fever, and he's just like, his energy's like he sits me down, and this is before I started any businesses or anything like that, right? So all I had was just like these episodes, and I just somehow, because of my consistency, I was able to get in front of him. Like, and it's funny because I remember his director was like, "How'd you get here?" Like, he's kind of like, we usually interview like big names, you know? And I'm like, "Oh, I just made it happen." And I remember sitting down with him, and before we even turn on the video, like what you saw here, first 3-4 questions: how much money do you make? What do you do? What's your business like? What's the ROI? Blah, blah, blah. What's the profit margin? Like he's just like he's just stacking questions. And I'm just like, I look at him like, Patrick, I don't got answers for you, man. And then he started kind of laughed, and he was just like, okay, let's have some fun. And I'm like, God damn, this guy, I was so intimidated, bro.
Yeah,
devalued the crap out of you.
Yeah,
very much so. I don't think
he ate you up.
I don't think he purposely did it, but it was just it's just how he is. He's very like go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very intense kind of individual.
So the dude, what's his background? His ethnic background?
Assyrian.
He's Assyrian. That's right.
Assyrian.
Yeah, he's got like that like Roman structure.
Super, and he's like military.
Yeah.
Like very like.
And he's tall too, right?
He's huge. He's like 6'3", 6'4", something like that.
Crazy.
And he's like, and it's just like you walk in. At that time, Valuetainment was like, you know, their media thing, but then the what's it called? What was his insurance company? And there's like hundreds of people that work there. So like the impression you get is very like, oh, okay, this is a big boss. Like, you know, I gotta make sure I'm like good to go. And I remember so funny because we finished the episode. He walks out. His office is a glass cubicle in the middle of the entire building.
Wow.
And he clicks one button and like shades on the window just shut off everything so you don't see anything from the inside. But he's like, it's like, imagine like you walk into a building and like right in the dead center there's like this big cubicle and it's just his. And it was just like, it's like just the way he set himself up is very like, okay, I'm here, be careful type of situation, you know? But it was fun.
Yeah, that's flipping dope. Yeah. That's dope. So, what was your biggest takeaway having that conversation with him?
I gotta level up.
That's so funny.
I gotta level up.
That's so funny. That's the takeaway of every conversation. I swear to God.
I was like, damn, there's so many levels to this. And he just recently sold the company for I think he cashed out at like $300-400 million.
Wow.
So this is 3 years ago. So it was right before he sold.
Mm-hmm.
But for sure, it made me I walked out of there. I'm gonna be honest. Every time the reason why I love doing the podcasts is because you meet these people and you go, A, they're just human. B, the only difference is they just work their butt off, right? And C, they've just been in the game for so long. It made me think, oh my god, my 4 or 5 months of quote unquote struggle is nothing, bro. This guy's been at it for 2 decades, you know. But definitely, I walked away and I'm I remember telling my friend, I'm like, man, I gotta do something. And it's funny, and that was the time where actually I was telling him, I was telling your friend, I was kind of oh, I had issues with the whole aspect of I didn't have a business back then, and so I felt very wait, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just an interviewer. Now looking back, it was probably insecurity, you know, because Larry King was just an interviewer too, but God bless his soul, rest in peace. He's a legend, right, in that space. So I definitely could have kept going, but it just kind of I kind of took a step back after that. I was okay, I gotta build the name for myself,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, he actually motivated me how to start businesses and doing all the things that I did, meeting all these kind of people. It was a lot of fun.
That's dope. That's
cool.
dope.
Yeah.
No, that's super sick. Is there any opportunity right now that you have where you can call him a mentor of some sort?
I know Kai, his creative director. He's homies with me.
Mm-hmm.
We follow each other. His grandma lives 5 minutes away from my parents' house.
Oh, nice.
So if I ever need anything, yeah. But obviously, a guy at his status, I don't really necessarily knock on the door every single day. It's just,
right.
I make sure I have something for him if I need his time.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to get in front of. Very, 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 very anal about it, where he spends his time. But no, I stay in touch with all of his team, his people around him. My strategy isn't. I don't necessarily depends on the level. If we're talking about a C-list celeb, yeah, I might be homies with them. An A-list or somebody who's very successful in business, hundreds of millions of dollars deep. I don't necessarily connect with them directly because I'm gonna be honest, I'm way younger than him. I don't really have much to provide. And also too, as much as I have respect for him, we're not the same religion, not the same culture. So what am I gonna do? Hang out just because it's cool,
mm-hmm.
you know? So I do stay in touch more with the people who I vibe with more, which is usually his production managers, people around him, people who are super close, secondary to him, you know? And that's more than enough for me if I ever need to pull any strings and get in front of him.
Sick. Go ahead, Matic. What you got to say?
I was gonna say, so you said that now he inspired you to level up and open up businesses and stuff like that. And we were talking about it right before we started the podcast today, and let the people know what business are you into right now?
Yeah, so at the time I had a marketing agency that I started, and we did really well with that. On the side though, my dad was always a tech geek, IT guy, but he was a contractor his whole life, right? So he never necessarily really the most money he's ever made was $10,000-15,000 a month, and at the time I kind of started my marketing agency. I learned a lot from there. I failed, succeeded, all that kind of good stuff. And on the side though, I was helping my dad land clients, right? And so on the side, I was building this cybersecurity business that I didn't even know was going to be this thing. It was just kind of oh, I just want to help my dad because I can, you know? And so, but what happened was last year, I built the agency. We had 55 employees at its peak. My only thing is, it was just very challenging every single month. New sales, always had to constantly improve. And I'm all about that, right? I didn't it was icky. I didn't feel... the one thing I learned about all these big businessmen who really made it big, 9 figures plus, you know, I'm not talking about $1 million. I'm talking 10, 50, 100 plus, is that they stuck to something for 2-3 decades, something that was from an industry that's more old school, insurance, tech, something that's more brick and mortar, not necessarily these new up and coming consulting gigs, right? Because I was my whole agency was it was a coaching program, it was a course and all that stuff. Nothing against that. I just didn't see the scalability past where I was. It was so hard. My biggest goal was $1 million a month, and we at peak hit $250,000 a month, which we were doing really well. But it was just to push even further. I was do I really want to do this? And so on the side, I actually, as I was building the cybersecurity business, I kind of took some time last year for summer to kind of step back and kind of assess the situation, and decided to exit that company, and now I'm all full time with the cyber business because I see that being the 20-year play. a 9-figure exit, that kind of thing. I've always been ambitious with like wanting to make it big, So
That's very impressive. Obviously, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, you saw. Would you? I guess would you see this, or would you say this? I should say that by knowing that you're helping out your dad, possibly make more money. Do you feel like that motivated you to then work even harder than usual?
it's funny you say that because initially, no. Not at all. Zero, actually. Initially, there was so much friction. Like me and my dad, like we're like bickering at each other every
It's
single
tough
day.
to work with family.
Bro, it was
especially when you're working under your dad directly.
Yeah.
More often than not, you're not paid.
No, yeah. I mean, look, my dad's very generous. Like, but this is back when we first started in 2016, 2017. I mean, keep in mind too. I just dropped out of college. I don't really have much to prove to myself. I'm just a guy with a big mouth, and I was coming to this dude who's been alive for 50 plus years, built a whole family, telling him, hey, let's go make millions. He's like, bro, chill. Like, relax. And so there was a lot of that. It was like, I want to do this. He's like, no, let's take it easy. I want to do that. No, let's take it easy. And so we always fought. And so that's kind of what made me start the marketing agency. It was more of like, all right, I'll prove it to you. So I went out and I did. But it's funny because when I actually did make it, I remember clearly like days where I would sit there, I'd be like, this is lonely. Like, I would much rather put my expertise towards my family, my loved ones, people who actually can. Like, I kind of matured out of that like whole insecurity of like wanting to prove a point, wanting to be daddy's favorite trophy. Like I had issues with that, and I kind of, alhamdulillah, like it was interesting because like I really kind of took the time to reflect. It was a blessing in disguise. It taught me a lot. I built a lot of skills. I learned everything about business, and at the same time, my dad's respect for me grew. And so now that I'm back, it's a completely different situation. I mean, he's like he handles the technical team. I'm fully in control of like everything in the company, and he's like financially everything. Just do whatever you got to do. And so it was a blessing. Like I kind of that period of my life had to happen to prove to myself that I could do it, and also to prove to him that. He actually called me last week. First time. I don't know about you guys, but from like an Arab father, it's really hard for an Arab father to like even admit anything. So he calls me last week and he goes, I just want to let you know the reason why I'm trusting you is because I really see you as a man now. And I was like, whoa, like that's big. For like a dad to like, for my dad to say that was a big moving, stepping stone. So I'm very grateful where I'm at right now. I love it. I honestly, when you look at it full circle, you recognize that all the challenges that you go through are building you towards that like next thing, because I've always wanted to, as I mentioned, like ever since I was a kid, I'm like, I don't want to make $1 million. I want to make 100. I want to make 200. I want to make 300. I want to use that money to help the community, to help things. Because I always believe like, if not me, then who? Like there's not a lot of leaders in the Muslim community, at least specifically, that like, in my opinion, we have a lot of people who have money, but they're not necessarily. I look at it, they're not spending it correctly, And so I just wanted to be that change, and I realize now like. The business I was running, there's no way on earth I could have gotten to that point. This business though for sure. So before, to answer your question, no. Now, yes. So it's cool.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking the other night when we first met. We were talking about it, and it was like there is like this chase towards the grind, but when that grind it starts to pull too much time and energy from you as an individual, from you as the owner. Sometimes that grind isn't necessarily it's going to be worth it, but there's so much anxiety that comes with it.
Yeah.
Right. There's so much headache that comes with it. Like you were mentioning the other night, it was like, by the end of this week, I need 10 new clients. By the end of this month, I need 50 new clients. Where the hell am I going to like pull this out of? Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, we love to say that we want to get up and grind every single day, but it literally gets to a point, and this is where kind of, the shift between like, I guess the millionaire mindset and the billionaire mindset is, instead of me being the one who's grinding it out day in and day out, let me set up that system to where I've done the work that was necessary for that system to become self-sufficient. And now all I need to focus on is figuring out how to scale without necessarily doing the day in, day out work.
Totally. I also tell a lot of people, like, I wish I wasn't ambitious. Because the reason why, like, people hear, like, oh, wow, dude, that's cool. You're making $250,000, $300,000 a month. But what they didn't realize, I was spending, like, $280,000.
Yeah.
Because my goal was $1 million. So I'm like, well, I got to put it all back in. So, like, I would pay myself just, like, a little bit to, like, survive, give myself rent, car, whatever. And then everything else was just dumped back in. And so it was, like, this constant feeling of, like, oh, my God, I'm broke. You know what I mean? I was making all this dough, but I was just like, nope, where did it go? It's gone. And so it was like, I always tell, like, I'm like, I wish I didn't have, I mean, obviously it's like I don't, but like in reality, because if I wasn't that ambitious, I would have been straight chilling. Like, because, you know, $1 million can go really far. $2-3 million, you know, for a family, you can do pretty well for yourself. Have a nice house, the cars, you know, chill. But I'm just not that kind of guy. Like, I just can't. Because, like, the moment, like, even just that little period where I took a month or two off to reflect, I felt so anxious because I'm like, I'm not doing anything. What am I doing in my life? I'm just sitting here. Like, what a waste of a hobo kind of moment, like, you know? And so it also depends on your goals. Because if your goal in life is to make $1 million and just relax and, like, have a good time with your family, then, hey, proud, that's amazing, man. Go for it. Do your thing. That's very different, though, than, as you mentioned, like, millionaire versus billionaire mindset. It's very different than if you're looking to do way more. Because now you have to structure your life completely differently. You know, just because you're making all this money doesn't actually mean you're that rich. You know? Like, right now with the cybersecurity business, we do multiple 7 figures, but it's still... I mean, dude, I get phone calls from my dad every single day. Hey, bro, we gotta, like, you know, can't really. We're negative 15,000 this month, negative 50,000 this month, negative 30,000 because we're push. You always have to break through ceilings, you know. No matter, like, I totally. It's funny. I tell my employees this all the time. I see myself one day like we're making $10 million a month, and I still get pissed because I'm like, oh, we didn't hit 12, we didn't do 13, and so it's recognizing that like you'll always have that. It kind of allows you to just take a step back and kind of really assess and, as you said, build systems and structure it differently because there's never going to really be a time where you're going to sit back and go, all right, I'm good. At least not for me, you know? So.
Right, and I feel like in the development of a business like that as well, you know, it doesn't really become an asset that you can say, hey, I can just sell this right now and then sit on a bunch of cash. It doesn't become an asset unless you build a brand around it.
For sure.
A well-recognized brand around it.
Yeah.
Now, 2 questions. Where do you think you are in a process like that, considering your cybersecurity business? And what the flip is the second question?
Should we put some hold music right
Yeah.
now?
Just imagine like an elevator scene. But you know what? Let's answer that question. How long do you think it's going to take for you to be able to build this business into a brand that you can consider an asset?
20 years.
20 years. That's huge.
20 years. Yeah.
That's huge. Now, my other question, not related to this, but what is, besides salaries and paying your employees, what is your biggest expense besides that? Marketing.
Yeah,
so it's literally just that,
just
huh?
ads, man.
Fudge.
Ad spend, bro.
Crazy.
That's all it is. Like, all right, like, and the goal is let me land more clients so I can spend more money. That's literally how I'm thinking right now. Like, it's not let me land more clients so I can make more money. It's let me land more clients so I can spend more. Because the more you spend, the more you make. You know, and I'll be honest too, man. I'm in a $1.5 trillion industry. You know, and so the way I look at it, if you pull out a calculator, 1.5 trillion. If I take 1% of that, 1% of that, I'm making more money than the whole entire United States of America. So it's like recognizing the opportunity that's in front of you too is what shifts your perspective. Because I'm gonna be honest, like I always, one thing I learned from Patrick Bet-David, actually speaking of him, is his philosophy is he always used to ask his 80-year-old self. I'm sure you guys heard about this from like different books, but like he'd be like, anytime I make really conscious decisions in life, I always ask the person that's on my deathbed, like what would you have done?
Mm-hmm.
Like which route would you have preferred to take? You know, which route would you be more proud of taking? And the reality is, man, like if I ask myself, like whenever it is that we never know when we're gonna die, but let's say I live a healthy life, and in my 70s, 80s, I'm sitting there, you know, like, okay, would I have preferred to be the guy that did as much as he could to like make the biggest impact, or would I prefer to be the guy that like, you know, got it to 5-10 mil, sold, chilled? I can't do the second, you know, I can't do the latter. I'm not that kind of individual. And that, by the way, for everybody that's listening, doesn't mean that you have to do that too. Like, I tell this to a lot of people, like, I don't necessarily, like, don't follow anything I'm saying. It's just what's in me. It's just and recognizing that, like, what your true self is, I think it's what gives you that inner peace. You know? But definitely 20 years. I think 20 years, because my goal is 500 million. That's what I'm shooting for.
Because I feel like with what BB and I went through, right? I feel like you try to focus so much on, like, the next dollar. Right, which is very important. But then, like, you start being like, oh, here's one of the homies might come up, like, oh, here's an opportunity for this, for like a side hustle, and then side hustle, and then side hustle, and then side hustle, and then side hustle. I love side hustles, but what I learned recently is you're constantly giving certain percentages of yourself, of your time, into all these other side hustles that you're almost half-assing all of the other ones, as opposed to just maybe sticking to like one main thing,
Yeah.
and giving it your all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and I know it's almost cliche right now. It's just so like you've heard it so many times, right? But I feel like different sayings happen, or they hit different at different times in a person's life.
Yeah.
And that was one like that recently hit me differently. But what would you kind of say on that?
I totally agree. I mean, like, if you look at just the trends of people who have, like, the money that's spread around the country, right? Like, you see people who have, like, 10 million under, they usually have multiple side hustles. Anybody 10 million up, they have one thing.
Mm.
And the reality is because you're human. You can only allocate so much time and effort and, like, mental energy into something, right? And another thing, too, that I tell people, like, a big shift that I had to go through was going from a worker to a CEO. Like, it's recognizing what that actually means, right? Part of my day-to-day schedule is to do nothing but think. Like, that's an actual thing for me. Like, I'll go, okay, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., everybody don't talk to me. I'm not taking any meetings. I'm not taking any calls. I'm just going to sit there and reflect, right? And because that moment in time, you start to reflect on, like, okay, what did I learn today? Oh, I just took this sales call with this individual. He said this. Oh, I'm noticing these trends with these clients. Oh, I'm noticing these companies are moving this. Da-da-da-da. Like, all these things start to stack up, and you start to really see trends, and then you come back and you say, okay, team, we're going to do X, Y, Z. And those things become the key moving factors of your business to take it from where it is to wherever you want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about that times 5, because now you have 5 other businesses, good luck. I've never, by the way, it's so hard, shiny object syndrome. It's so hard to say no. Like, I get pitched left and right. I mean, just in the past 30 days, probably like 7 different people came up to me asking, like, hey, let's build a business together. And they're all great ideas. Like, I have no issue. Like, I'm like, that's dope. But no. And it's really hard to say no, especially in the beginning, because you're not really getting paid a lot, and you're just like, ooh, that can make me an extra $50K. Ooh, that can make me an extra $10K. Ooh, that can make me an extra this, and I can get this, but that's all short-term thinking, man. And I used to be like that, and it killed me. Like, I almost lost all my money because of it when I first started my career, because I was very, like, short-term. Like, I would make money, spend it, make money, do this, make money, let's figure out how to stack more. So I totally agree, which is why I took some time off last year, and I said, I want to spend the next 20 years of my life doing one thing. Just one. Because after, like, I'm 25, right? 20 years, I'll be 45, right? 45 to 60, then I could open, like, a private equity, use all this money to, like, leverage myself into multiple different businesses. And don't get me wrong, in that 20-year span, like, 10 years in, like, I have enough money now, I can give this guy cash, I can give this guy cash, but I'm not the one running it.
Yeah, you're like a silent investor.
Yeah. I'm not the one that's in the day-to-day grind. And honestly, too, one of my mentors told me this, and I love it. He always says, if you don't focus on one thing, you never really build a reputation around anything. I'm going to repeat that. If you don't focus on one thing, you never really build a reputation around anything.
Mm-hmm.
You're the guy who just does it all.
That's the whole point of a brand.
Yeah. And so I agree. Branding does, like, we're in an interesting time now with social media where, like, you can kind of be the guy who, like, has multiple things going on, but the brand is your main thing. But still, you still have that one thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think it's so important because, like, that hit me home. I was just like, wait, he has a point. Because, like, when I first started, I was testing so many different things. I never really focused on one thing. And plus, it gives you a little bit of peace, man. Like, look, we all talk about this whole, like, grind all day, blah, 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 but that's not sustainable. Like, 6, 7 o'clock, if I'm done with my work, or even 3 o'clock, like today, like, I was done, like, at 12. I'm chilling. I'm not going to go stress out about the 17 other businesses that I'm running. You know what I mean? I'm going to go vibe, record a podcast, enjoy some time with my friends, because we're gonna live, like, life is a marathon. It's not, like, a sprint. Like, just take your time, like, enjoy it. Take a step back, relax, look at the things you built. It's really hard, though, to have that perspective when you're first starting because you're so hungry and you kind of, like, you have to make money. So I understand if you're first beginning, you're kind of just testing everything. Mm-hmm. But once you find your groove, I think you need to cut off all the other distractions and go all in on whatever that is that you're, looking for.
Yep, man. That's solid because that was one of the things that I thought about personally with. So, like, I went from selling, like, medical devices to having, like, side hustles with, like, the rental cars that I was telling you about to, like, this, to that, to that, to that, to, like, many other things, right? And also, we have the family business too. So my dad, growing up, would always tell me, "Malik, just stick to the family business. Stick to the family business. Let's grow it. Let's grow it." You know. And I was always like, "All right, well, I want to do my own thing. I almost like like your experience of, I want to do my own. Like I want to prove you wrong. I want to prove you. But
Yeah.
after doing everything, you start realizing what you're really passionate about. I wasn't too passionate about selling medical devices. I wasn't too passionate about a couple of the other things. Even if I was, like, for example, cars and car rentals and stuff. We all love cars, dude.
Yeah.
Like something about it ever since we're young just attracts what it calls the average Middle Eastern / North African thing in us, just to like love exotic cars. But it's nice, man. But with time, with experience, you start realizing I should focus this, and this should be my cash cow. This should be my baby, and the main thing that I should focus on. So that's one thing that I really recently just kind of came to terms with. That why am I focusing on the next distraction?
Yeah.
When what I should be focusing on is right in front of me.
Yeah, it's as I said, it's hard in the beginning. Like, this is why, like, when I get on social media or I talk to anybody, I'm always like, listen, like, don't take my advice or anything we're saying here, like, to the T. Because everybody has their own life. You know what I'm saying? And some people are in positions where they have to have multiple hustles because they just need to make money. They need to make ends meet. And that's the reality of the situation. Thankfully, I'm in a position where I could go all in on one thing. Man, there's so many times where I go, like, when I'm stressing about, like, oh, we need clients, we need this, I just laugh. I sit back. I'm like, dude, you're focused full time on this thing only. Like, that by itself is a freaking blessing. Like, that one business is helping you live a good life. Like, And so I agree. Like, in the beginning stages, you got to do what you got to do. And you can't, like, sit there and, like, dwell on it. Like, I had that issue too, man. Like, I wanted to prove my dad. I was also worried, like, what's the world gonna say? Like, oh, people will be like, oh, it's your dad's business. Ha ha ha. Like, it's not yours. And it's like, but I realized it's just stupid. Like, what a dumb thought process,
That is so important because, like, you start thinking that people are gonna say that you're not man just because your father is the one who started a business or whatever it is.
Hilarious.
But at the end of the day, your average American is literally living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some dead end job that they can't scale up from,
and that they hate. That they're miserable.
They're miserable and they're expendable.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna come up to you and be like, "You're not a man."
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny because we've literally been having these conversations maybe like in the last month or 2 months.
Yeah.
Where this exact same scenario, it applies to a lot of people in our close circle. A lot of people. Like, I can just name 3 people right now. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And, but something I wanted to touch upon that I thought was really, really cool. You were explaining how you take 2 hours sometimes of your day just to kind of kick everybody out, focus on yourself. Okay, what did I learn and how can I apply it? Right?
Absolutely.
And then you were saying that, like, you put those into, like, for example, bulletin points, and it then becomes a part of the system in which you start running your entire operation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just last time we recorded, one of the last things we were finishing on was this concept of never fear the first draft. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, you come up with, because we were talking about developing systems, right? And how if you have a goal, if you have a vision, if you have no system for it, you're just a lost puppy, just straggling in the wild.
Yeah.
But you got to develop a system. And sometimes developing the system, sometimes the scariest part is the hardest part. Right? We mentioned this whole idea of don't fear a first draft. It's like, dude, put something together. Yeah. You're going to eventually change up that system over time to where it's going to work better and better and better until you finally come up with something that's going to work, that's never going to fail.
Yeah, absolutely.
And still, you're probably going to be improving on it.
100%. And you also get to a point where, like, your expertise then pays off. Like, thankfully now I'm at a point in my life where, I could start any business and within 4 hours build a marketing system that's generating leads and sales and booked appointments. Like, literally. Like, any business. Give me any business. You want to sell, you're in honey, you're whatever you do, like, you're in car rental, whatever. Anything you need. I got you. All right. Right? So you will get to a point where your, like, expertise will... And this is why like millionaires who lose it all usually end up building again, because money is just I love this. Money is simply a reflection of your own skills, period.
Damn.
And so if you're not making it, it's because your skills ain't there, brother. Like, and I'm so sorry, that might hurt some people that are listening to this, like boo-hoo, right? But at the end of the day, the market don't care about you. It cares about what you're delivering, the value you bring to the table, right? And so if you're like, oh, I'm so scared of the first draft, well, guess what? We all have to start somewhere. You know, we all had to come in and shoot the shot when we had no idea where we were shooting, and just praying to God it lands somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that's the cool thing about life, like. You know, and whoever that's listening to, if like from a more religious standpoint too, like if you believe in God, like it's also realizing that your hard work and your effort isn't going to go for nothing. Like that's something that always keeps me going. Like, you know, God has my back. Like, and He knows my intentions. He knows what I'm trying to accomplish. And as long as I continue with faith and I continue with skills and I surround myself with the right people like you, with, you know, like-minded individuals who are all on the same page trying to grow, eventually something will work out. Mm-hmm. You know, something. And by the way, it's so crazy because you can go from literally $0 to $1 million in 24 hours or less. Just like that. Once something does hit, like there is such thing as overnight success, but that overnight success took you 5 years to build. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think recognizing that that's how business works. It's not a linear growth. It's like up, down, up, down, up, down. And every time you go down, your up is a little bigger than the last one. Mm-hmm. Right? And then you look back and all the things that you've built. And you go, oh, this is cool. Like, dude, sometimes I look back and I'm like, how the hell did I even get here? Like, this is so interesting. And I still think I'm so, like, an amateur. Like, because I believe in what I just said. Like, I don't have hundreds of millions of dollars because my skills ain't there yet. Period. And whether I like it or not, I can sit there and cry about it. But, like, that's the reality. Like, when I sat in front of guys like Patrick Perdue, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. You're a savage. You know what I mean? Like, there's levels to the game, man. But I think it's just like you gotta love it too. A lot of people these days, I feel like, get into entrepreneurship or build a business because it's the cool thing to do.
Right.
Like it's like, oh,
it's trendy.
It's trendy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how long you've been.
And it also it stimulates your ego.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're like cool. You're the cool guy. You know?
Most entrepreneurs don't even know how to spell the word entrepreneur.
That's so true, man. Yeah, and I think, like, for me, like, I grew up in a family where, like, all my uncles owned factories or, like, businessmen, all dropouts. Like, I didn't do it because it was cool. I did it because, like, I actually love the game. Like, I enjoy the heck out of the grind. I enjoy just creating. Like, it's so cool to me how, like, we can sit on this table and pull up a piece of paper and go, we're going to sell this and do this, and, like, 2-3 months later,
it's in action.
It's in reality. That's so tangible. Dope. That's so cool. Like, the creation process is so cool to me. Some people don't care for that. And so, like, I tell people all the time, like, if you're not that person, don't push to become that person. Just chill. Like, enjoy whatever it is that you've done. Like, I've also met a lot of B players, C players, like, people who are just, like, in the, 9-to-5ers who build through the corporate ladder, became executives, and make a crap load of money and are very successful and are happy and they're good at their job. If that's you, do it.
Yep. No shame to that.
100%.
Wow, man. Well, that was one of those things where it's just, we were going in on it, and I was just kind of reflecting about a lot of personal experiences that I was going through with my life and with the family business and with a lot of stuff that I've kind of focused on, and kind of looking back at things right now, reflecting, it's like one thing that you said that resonated was just go out and freaking do it, basically.
Yeah.
Right? Do what you're passionate about. If you know that maybe starting a business, it may not fit who you are, then maybe work in the corporate world and working your way up and stuff, just do that. At the end of the day, you need to do what makes you happy, because you're going to have a lot of criticism from a lot of people around there. Whether you open up a business, they're going to talk bad about you. If you don't open up a business, if you work for a corporate world, they're still going to say something at the end of the day. If you don't do nothing, if you're a deadbeat, they still will say something about you. So regardless of whether you're up or you're down, people are still going to say something.
Yeah, focus on you, man. I always tell people, like, if you're in this game for the money only, you're in the wrong game. Like, I know, like, a lot of the stuff I just said is like, oh, I want to make all this money. But there's so much behind that. Like, I want to build a brand for impact. I want to be a motivation for people. Like, you know, I know right before we started talking, like, we were discussing how Andrew Tate just got released, you know? And I think it's freaking, like, just the impact it had on me, because I look at it and I'm like, whoa, this guy, like, became converted, became Muslim, went to prison, and he's, like, changing the whole world without even doing anything. He's just him.
Bro, you got people who are non-Muslims saying haram.
Yeah. Like, it's,
Oh my god.
yeah, straight up, bro. He created a trend, and I think that's, like, wow. Like, to me, like, that drives me. And I understand that the world works in ways where if you have money, you have power. You got power, you make things happen. You make moves.
Yeah,
and so that's really why I want to become wealthy. It isn't because I can be like, oh, look at all these Ferraris. I mean, that's cool, cherry on top. Don't get me wrong. I love cars. I love houses. I want all that. But, like, to me, that's just it's just a testimony of, like, your success. It's not necessarily the reason why I wake up in the morning. I don't even remember the last time. Like, the next car I'm like, my dream car is like a McLaren. Like, that's the next car I want to get, right? I don't remember the last time I actually woke up in the morning and said, let's get to work because I want my McLaren. You know, like, I don't think like that. Like, I wake up in the morning and I go, I got employees who are relying on me. I got a family who needs to be fed. I got a community that has so many missing gaps that I could probably improve. I want to be an inspiration for others. I want a kid that's 5 years old, 10 years old, whatever, look up to me and go, whoa, that guy did it, so I can too. Like, to me, that is, like, what inspires me to push, and that's why I'm in the game. So I always tell people, like, if you're in the game of entrepreneurs just for the money, you're gonna be so dissatisfied, dude, because it's like it sucks. It sucks. Like we're so glorified. I don't even know why, man. Like, people look at it and they're like, nobody talks about the grind, the stress, the days that, like, I don't mind being open. I've had so many days where I sat there crying in tears, like, oh my god, what am I doing? Where am I going? I'm lonely. No one really knows what the hell's going on in my life. Like, you know, it's hard. It's not easy, and so you really have to have a deeper reason to it aside from just the cash. You know?
Yep. So basically, what I got out of that is you have to have a why.
Yeah.
Why are you doing something? Any sort of action, there needs to be a why. If your why is cash, if your why is just very short-term thinking, then you're going to have short-term emotions and long-term traumas. So I think that is freaking one of the biggest things. So it's like, why do we want it? Like, when we were both talking, BB and I, about, like, the podcast, about starting it up, why? Was it for clout? Was it just for us to say, oh, you know what, like, we built something great? Our why really was, we're having these conversations that are really benefiting each other. We want other people to benefit from this. Other people who are in their, you know, like their teens, early 20s, their 30s, 40, doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, they're benefiting from this, from what we have to say. Almost, hopefully, as much, if not more, than what we're already benefiting from this as well.
This is officially, like, the dopest episode we've ever recorded.
I told you, man, I'm gonna come in and fire it
Nah,
up.
dude, I'm lit right now. I'm lit. I can't wait to edit this.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna start taking so many notes, like, of, like, the different quotes and stuff like that. Just put them all in my little handy dandy notebook right here. I'm so excited. But no, this has been dope. And that wasn't a transition to end. I was gonna be like, I just wanted to throw that out there.
This is the best thing ever. All right, guys. See you later. Bye.
Another thing I want to add to your point, though. I also think, just as much as, like, you shouldn't, like, be all about the money, I think it's also totally okay to admit that part of you wants that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be honest. I want power. I want money. I want fame. I want clout. I do want that. But that's not, like, the North Star.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely, like, when I'm having a bad and crappy day, that's part of something that does motivate me. I'm like, oh, bro, you got like 200,000 followers, bro. You got to keep going, bro. Like, you got all this money flowing. You got to keep going. But it's kind of dope. Plus, it's, I don't know about you, but, like, I like to play like I'm playing in the NBA. You know, I don't like to play like I'm high school, college. Like, I'm an athlete. You know, and so I look at it as, dude, if I shot a cool 3 and it went in, damn. And I was like, that was sick. Like, so I do give myself those moments. I think it's totally okay for you to, like, have, like, a part of you that is driven by that kind of stuff, but it has to be controlled.
It's only natural. We're human.
Yeah.
It's only natural. We're always gonna enjoy the gratification.
For sure.
We're always gonna enjoy the gratification, whether it's instant, whether it's long term. The fact of the matter is if people who are millionaires and billionaires, if they didn't care about the money side of it, they wouldn't get mansions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They wouldn't get nice cars. They wouldn't spoil themselves every once in a while.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, the gratification is just a human part of it.
I mean, there are people that are like Elon Musk who like don't give a flying F about it. And just kind of modern Albert Einstein is what I like to call him. He's just a whole other beast. But like I remember watching an interview with Mark Cuban. They asked him, "Hey, when you first hit your first $1 billion, like how'd it feel?" He's like, "Dope." Like, you know what I mean? That was literally his response. He was like, "It was the dopest feeling in the world." And so, but it's hard to explain over like verbal communication. You got to really experience it to understand how to balance it, right? You don't want to be too much money motivated, but you also don't want to be not money motivated because you're not going to move.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want to be too motivated by philanthropy because you're not going to make any money. You know,
True.
So you have to have a little capitalistic side of you to be able to like say, no, you owe me this. Like, remember we were talking about the boss? You're like, don't do work for free.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I told you who introduced me to him, right? Adam. And then I was like, one of Adam's biggest issues is that he just does everything for free for people.
Yeah.
You know? And then he was just like, yeah, no, that ship has sailed a long time ago. Just like, smart man, dude.
Yeah.
Smart man.
Yeah. So it's recognizing the balance. Like, for example, like, you guys are super cool. Like, if you provide value for me, I provide value for you. You need something for free, like, I'm down. Whatever. Like, because there's value.
It's reciprocal.
It's reciprocal. Yeah, exactly. But I'm not sitting around waiting, like, for people, like, with a sign, like, hey, whatever you need, here I am. Like, I just want to help the world. Woohoo. Like, you got to also recognize that to help others, you got to help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of selfishness that you have to have. And I think that was so hard for me to understand because I grew up in a culture where, all of us here can relate. Middle Eastern culture, like, we're very, like, oh, you got to be about others. You got to help others.
Give.
Give.
Hospitality
to the max. Like, get run over all the time. Like, and so, like, it was very tough for me to go, wait, like, is this me being cocky?
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I being egotistical for, like, wanting these things? And over time, I realized, no, it's not. Like, I do want that, and there's nothing wrong with seeking it. Like, and I should have the philosophy of like I deserve it. Like, and I gotta go out there and earn it. But it's also don't allow it to overtake you too much to a point where, like, let's say you one day, I'll give you an example, like, with donations and giving money back, I'm always open. Like, I can have, like, for example, like, $100 of the only money I have cash, I give it, you want to take it. So I'm not stingy, at all. And so it's a balance, and I think you only recognize it when you go through it and you see your triggers and, like, you're very clear. And that's why those, like, 2 hours a day that I take to reflect, huge. Because I don't just reflect on the business, I reflect on myself. I think emotional intelligence is the most important thing for an entrepreneur. Like, you have to be intelligent with your emotions. You have to recognize, why am I feeling like this? Why did that person piss me off? Why is it that what that one person told me, I'm all of a sudden anxious now for the rest of the day? Why am I tripping about this? Why am I worried about, like, you got to really understand yourself on a deep level if you're going to be successful in anything you do, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the part to being selfish, that's something that I would say I learned the hard way.
Yeah, you need to work. Out of everyone over here,
there's a lot of learning that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, I guess there's a negative connotation to it, but I usually see it as a positive thing. But I was more of a mama's boy growing up, and usually what that means is, like, I end up being very naive naturally, right? And I like, generosity is something that I value very, very high. What was the other point I wanted to mention? Oh, perfect. Like you said, culture and faith, they play such a huge role in it. Because for me, what ends up happening is I'll be in a moment where it's either give or hold, right? And it's not necessarily selfishly hold, as in, like, I just don't want to give. But it's more of like, hey, I'm not really in that kind of a position to be giving. And then my mind immediately goes to, okay, well, will giving positively affect you on the day of judgment, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, are you selfishly holding because you think God is going to run out of sustenance for you? So my mind literally just takes it to the extreme.
Your own guilt trip.
My mind takes it to the extremes, right? Of, like, a stoic, faithful person, right? And then next thing you know, I'm like, whatever, man. I just hand it off. You know, I just let it go. I'm like, whatever. You know, like you said, God's got my back.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
God's not gonna let me go.
Yeah.
Right. But then it ends up in a situation where in the long term, you really do find yourself in these tricky positions where you're like, all right, you know what? Maybe I should have been a little bit wiser.
Yeah.
I should have been a little bit more selfish in certain positions.
There's a scale. So I was actually listening to, Alex Ramosi?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was listening to a
No.
podcast. I was listening to a podcast. Google him. So I was listening to a podcast of his, and he said that he came across this research paper that said there's an actual scale. It's 8 to 10. And I'll explain to you what that means in a second. So basically, like, very successful people have a natural ability to give, right? Because you have to give. You know, it's like the jab, hook type of thing. Yeah. So you got to always be giving. So, but like the question is like, if you're an analytical person, like, what is that scale to ratio of giving and taking?
Mm-hmm.
And they realize that somebody who is like, let's say 0 is a complete like taker, and then 10 is a complete giver, right? So if you're a 0, then you'll have very fast success, but it'll be very short term, right? And then if you're a 10, you'll have no success, and you'll constantly be giving. Like, you'll have nothing. You'll own nothing, you know? And so the key is they came to realize that 7 to 8 is where you want to be. So 8 where you're giving, and 2 where you're taking. Right? So it's an 80-20. Right? So it's like 80% you are. Majority of you is to give. So you have to have that, like what you said about your generosity, that should be a North Star. But there's also should be moments where you recognize that, wait, hold up, I need this. Hold up, okay, like, I've helped you 1,000 times, buddy. Time to, like, let me ask you for a favor, right? And I think it's just learning that balance is very key.
Now, within that 8 to 10 ratio, now if we were to once again make it just like simple analytics, somebody who, let's say for example, they have a job, right? Would you say that what's within that 8 would also include, like, the necessities, your expenses? Like, would that be considered within the 8?
Well, so like that's giving. So 8 is giving, 2 is taking, right? So I would if I necessity and expenses. That's like aside from all of that. Like what I'm saying is
so it is completely separate.
Yeah, that's separate.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, let's say I'm trying to build a relationship with somebody. Like somebody, like a lot of people, I get asked this question a lot. Like, oh, how do you get connected to all these people that you know? You know, I mean, like we were just sitting. He's like, how'd you get in front of them? You know? And I said simple DMs. But the reality is, like, what I always did was I gave without asking for anything. I just kept giving. Right, but I would count. I wasn't an idiot about it. Like, I wasn't just sitting there like, there you go, take whatever you want. Like, I don't do that. Like, it's like, okay, I'm giving. By the way, donations are different. So if I'm donating to the homeless or needy, I don't sit there and calculate.
I'm coming back Thursday.
Yeah, I want to make sure to clarify that. You know, because
taking your shoes as collateral.
Yeah,
no, man,
you gotta. That's the thing about life, man. It's not black and white. You gotta really understand, like,
everything's situational.
Yeah, everything's situational, right? But purely in business format, when you're meeting somebody, like even if you have a job, let's say, and you want to get promoted, right? You take your boss out to lunch, you take care of him, you maybe help him out on extra things, you stay overtime. That's you giving, right? And so what happens though? Over time, your boss says, "Oh, this guy's lit. Oh, this guy's always there when I need him. Oh, this guy's this guy's that." And so when the time is there for the promotions, this is when it's time for you to be like, I deserve a promotion. I want you to promote me. That's you taking the 20%.
But you don't bring up the 80% though. You don't bring up what I gave you and what I've done for you. Yeah.
No.
That was one of the laws in the 48 Laws of Power. Yeah. It was never mention what you've done for someone or what you've given them.
0. And by the way, if they don't reciprocate, cut them off.
Because they're a 0.
Yeah.
Because there are leeches out there.
Yeah, leeches, 100%.
There are leeches out there.
There should good people are gonna naturally do you don't even. It's funny because it's the 8 to 20 rule, but with the good person, you give them once or twice, you'll be like, hey bro, what can I do for you? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The simple thing of taking somebody out for dinner.
It's consideration. They just they're just considerate.
And so you'll meet people like that, and I've also realized the most successful people are usually the easiest to get in front of. Because they understand that that's just how the game works. Mm-hmm. You know, and if you're humble about your approach and you're willing to do whatever it takes, they'll pick you up and they'll take you wherever you need to go.
It's funny you mentioned this whole concept because I remember we were talking on that night, and you were it was related to the conversation of don't do things for free.
Yeah.
And you were just like, listen, man, I've accepted it's a capitalistic society. You know what I mean? You're like, you were. I forgot the way you put it, but it was basically just like, you'll give.
Yeah.
But in a sense, you see it as an investment.
Yeah.
Because you know, it's gonna eventually
come back.
They're gonna build something that's gonna later on maybe like give you some return.
Yeah. You gotta, dude. By the way, you know what's so funny? Everything I'm saying right here, right now, took me so many years to like admit to myself.
No doubt.
Because I always felt like, wait, this is wrong. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and a big thing too. Growing up, I used to get cold cocky all the time because I always was the guy who would walk around and be like, I'm gonna do all these things. And I realized, okay, no, I keep it quiet, right? I keep it more DL, right? But for sure, I think like you gotta play it like chess, man. You gotta be very strategic with all your approaches, and you should be unapologetic about it, like and because when I do give, it comes from a place of true like intentions, like I actually care.
It's genuine.
Like it's not like I'm not like sitting there giving you and saying, ha, can't wait to like come back and ask for a favor. I just understand that that's how the world works. So for example, let's say me and you are getting to know each other, right? And so I'm just like, hey bro, you hit me up. You're like, dude, like, can you help me with this? Like, I need the podcast. What are your advice on this? Okay, cool. Here we go. This, right? I might not in that moment have intentions to ask you for anything in the future. Like, it's not like I'm sitting there going, oh, in 6 months, I'm going to go up to you and go, hey, bro, remember that one time I did that? Yeah. Okay, cool. Can you?
I made you. All right, let's go.
Yeah. I don't do that at all. But what I do know is whether it's through you or through someone else, in the action of giving, I am depositing into this worldly bank of things that's going to eventually reciprocate to me.
Yeah.
Right? And it might not be through you. Like, you might be like, hey, Adam, like, screw you, bro. Like, you're not worth my time. I'm like, oh, okay. But then I meet somebody 2 weeks from now, and that guy is like this very successful individual, and for whatever reason, he sees a spark in me, and he goes, I like you, here, come. I just really believe in, like, energies connecting in certain weird ways that just, it's unexplainable.
It goes back to what you were explaining about the whole, like the money that you make is based on the skills that you have.
Yeah.
Right. And you were explaining along those lines that when you put in the effort, Allah is bound to reward effort.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And so the reality of the situation is, even if you end up in a situation where you find a leech, someone who's an absolute zero, and they're nothing but open palms. They just keep taking and taking and taking. The reality of the situation is your efforts are not gone unnoticed by Rabbil Alameen, by God Himself.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is people always they throw the word karma, right? But the reality is God is the one who's in control of what goes around and what comes around. And the fact of the matter is, when you do constantly give, God will open up more doors for you to receive.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But I love that we're Muslim.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh my God! If I had no belief in God, I'd be going nuts.
Yeah,
I'd be going nuts.
I'm convinced I'd be in jail by now. I swear to God,
I'd be selling drugs. Like,
knowing myself, I would be in jail for sure.
Because like I'm gonna be real with you guys. My want to like fix and not be too capitalistic is because I believe in judgment. If that didn't exist, dude, I would be like, all right, guys, we're gonna sell coke and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that.
Side hustles.
Yeah, side hustles.
Yeah.
So like, it's just but I 100% believe that Allah's watching, and Allah's watching every single one of your steps and is going, oh, okay, he did this, he did that. Okay, cool, dude. The amount of times, like, even this right here, like I've been like making dua, like, okay, I want a group of people to like do a cool podcast with, but I'm very anal about who I like. Honestly, like I'm sure you guys are too, like, about who I spend my energy with, right? 100%. And so I'm like, man, like, okay, I want a podcast, but I'm not just gonna pick anybody up and just run a podcast with them. And it's been hard to find somebody. And subhanAllah, like, I'm at the mosque, and out of all places, like, I've always seen your businesses around. I've seen you hustle and do your thing. I don't really know you like that, but like, I've seen your work, and like, you come up and we're talking and just here we are. I promise you, this wouldn't have happened if I, for whatever reason, was an a-hole about other things in my life. And so I do believe, like, yeah, you can call it karma, call it whatever you want to call it. Whatever goes around comes around, 100%.
Yeah, no, this is sick, dude. This is tight, dude, honestly. I'm so lit right now.
Yeah, man, it's I love, like, I can talk about things for like hours.
Hell yeah, dude. No, absolutely. I didn't care to put a time limit to like today's
How long have we been
recording.
going for?
We've been going so far for 55 minutes.
Wow.
I'm not
I know.
I'm not
Wow.
surprised.
So surprised, bro.
What?
I'm not surprised, and like, I wouldn't be surprised if this just keeps on going.
Yeah, I was telling him earlier, he's like, yeah, we're still trying to figure out 20 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm like, dude, if you got a good group and like a good show, Like you can go on for hours and people will
Mhm.
listen. They'll tune
Yeah.
in. Like they'll stop, come back to it. They'll kind of like keep listening.
Yeah, no, I just tell people nowadays. I'm like, dude, you know how it is with podcasts. Put it on 1.25 speed and just let it run, bro.
Yeah. But this has been fun.
No, honestly, this is. Well, here's to one of my favorite episodes so
So
far.
far, dude, absolutely.
I cannot wait for other people to start listening to this conversation and hopefully getting some sort of benefit out of this, because this is what we want. This is what we're here for. To put out real conversations. We're not the gurus. We're not the people who are saying that we're perfect. We're holier than thou. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going through it. We're having real conversations, and Adam, it was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming
sure.
out, speaking to us, and BB,
Are
take us away, man.
Are we good? Are we good to sign off? We feeling all right?
Yeah, whatever you want, bro.
Yeah.
I'm with the flow.
Cool, sick, man. What are you doing for a thought?
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man, absolutely. No, inshallah, I definitely look forward to future conversations.
For sure.
Inshallah, we will. We do have a couple of ideas in the works. If it does work out, then you'll definitely hear more from this trio. But otherwise, with that being said, this has been another episode of the King of Average podcast with your boy BB
And Malik.
and our special guest
Adam.
Thank you so much, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.